Hey there, my name is Jonah, and I'm going to be showing to you Better Uploader, a plugin for Bubble that I created. Basically, it's a special kind of uploader that I created myself for Bubble that has several advantages. The biggest thing is that we're going to be separating the uploading process from the selecting file process. So normally with Bubble, the original file uploader that you use, default file uploader, the moment you select a file, it gets shot to the server. So if you select a video, if you select an image, it gets uploaded to the server right away. And that's okay sometimes, but especially in the past, but today, with the new workflow unit pricing system, what that does is it costs money actually, because when you select a file, it gets uploaded right away. But what if the user makes a mistake when selecting a file? What if they select the incorrect file? Or what if they want to change something about the file before they upload it? For instance, if I select a PDF that has a really long and crazy name and I want to call it something simple, or if I select a screenshot from my phone, it might have a really long screenshot name with a timestamp at the end. That's not something that we really want to be named like that in our database. We could rename the file before uploading it to the server. And we can upload multiple files at a time, so we can make a bunch of changes to a bunch of files on the person's computer or phone, and then upload it. So let's demonstrate this. I'm going to select 3 files here. So as you can see, I can preview the images on the page before actually uploading it to the server. This is not in my database yet, so it's a really big advantage of Better Uploader. Okay, so if I wanted to, I could already start making changes. So let's say I selected 3 images by accident, but I really wanted to select 2. I could click X on this middle image and boom, it's gone. Okay, and here's the first image, which has a really long name, screenshot from the date that I took it. So what we're gonna wanna do is gonna call this F-icon. That's a name that makes a bit more sense. And when we click the check mark, it gets renamed automatically to F-icon, which is what we did, and then it put the PNG at the end. All right, so we don't need to put the extension information in the thing. It already knows what to do. So here we can call this screenshot homepage. We'll click check, and it gets renamed. So this hasn't been shot to the server yet, and to prove it to you, we'll go here, and in my file manager, it's not there. So now if we click upload, you'll see that the percentage, well, there you go, it's at 100% now. And now the uploaded data is these 2 images now. So if we go back here and we search, we see that the 2 images that we selected before are not only uploaded, but they are renamed as well. Not only are you able to rename files or make changes to files before you upload them, but you're also saving a ton on workflow units, because the normal way of doing this is you have to upload the file, and then if a user makes a mistake, you have to go retrieve the file and delete the file. Or if you want to rename it, you have to upload the file and then find the file, rename the file, and it gets re-uploaded again. So we're avoiding all of that, and we're doing it all in one action, and that's going to significantly reduce your workflow units, especially if your application does a lot of image uploading, especially for big files. Now let's look at the editor, the actual element itself. I placed it on the page, and I'm going to bring you through the properties of the plugin, and hopefully you'll understand a bit more from this. So there's a lot more features here that we haven't talked about. So the first step is standard. You have to define the max size for the file, and you have to put file uploads enabled to yes. This is just something that Bubble requires. So here in megabytes, 5,000 megabytes, 5 gigabytes is the maximum. And then we're going to enter a placeholder. So this is what appears inside here. And then we have suggested file types. And so this is important. You're going to put the image extensions as a list here, so that when they click on upload a file, they're automatically presented to you with only the extensions that you define. Because if you don't do that, then it's going to show all of the files in the directory, which is okay, but for a lot of users that could discourage them, and we want to avoid that. So we put only the type of files that we want to show up. And then, but that's not that's not a surefire solution, right? They could still click on there's an option normally where they can see all file types. So to avoid them doing that and uploading the wrong kind of file type for your application, you're going to go ahead and copy paste whatever you put in the suggested file types, and you're going to put it in limit file types. Okay, and then we're going to define a max amount of files, because we don't want them to be able to upload, let's say, 99 files or something crazy like that, because that's obviously going to cause problems when it comes to storage. So to avoid that, we put a maximum. And then the last thing here is large file mode / performance mode. So this is checked for this application because this application performance matters. However, I'll get into why that's important for most applications. When you're just uploading images and such, you don't need the large file mode or the performance mode. So what the large file mode does is, instead of using data URIs to be represented as the raw data exposed state, which we'll get into in a little bit, it uses blob URIs, or blob URLs, which basically allows us to preview big files like videos on the page and make changes to videos without using a lot of processing. Because if this is disabled, our raw data exposed state will use data URIs. Okay, I'm probably losing you here. So let's scroll down and I'm going to show you what's going on. So here we have repeating group file. All right, this is a repeating group of images. Okay, and so I do type of content on the repeating group, and I do file. In my data source, we're going to type better uploader, and then we're going to type raw data. All right, it's already here, raw data. Now, raw data, what this is raw data is a list of files or a list of images, whatever the user uploads, that is selected by the user before uploading. So the user is going to select some files, and it's going to get shot into the better uploader raw data exposed state. And it says here list of text. The reason why is because it's essentially a list of URLs. Okay, so either they're going to be data URI URLs, or they're going to be blob URLs. The reason why it's important to know the difference between the two is if you're working with certain types of APIs. So for an example, Cloudinary is a very popular API, which allows you to edit images, to generate AI previews of videos, and it does all sorts of AI image processing. Now, normally, to work with something like this, you have to upload an image to Bubble, get the image URL, send it over to Cloudinary. Cloudinary does whatever it does, and returns a new image, which you then have to replace in your database. Now, what's really crazy and really cool with Better Uploader is that you can skip all of that. All you have to do is use your raw data exposed state and make changes to the image while the user is still on the page, right? So we send over the image to the API through the API connector, and we get to use all of these features from whatever API we want to use without having to actually save it to our database and consume all sorts of workflow units. So, for instance, just to give you an example, this API here requires that you send base64 data URIs to their server, which is exactly what Better Uploader does. So when you select the file, the raw data exposed state is going to get populated with a data URI, except if you're using that large file mode that we were talking about before. Okay, and that's where this comes in. Large file mode, if it's enabled, then data URIs won't be used and blob URLs will be used. And blob URLs are best suited to preview on the page, okay? But it really only matters for really big files. So if we're using a video file or something that's really big, if we don't enable this, then it's a big file and it converts it to a data URI, and it takes a while. It could even crash your browser. So for files that are above 2 gigabytes, you want to, unless you really have to, like if you need to send a really big video to Cloudinary, then you have to leave it unchecked. But normally, if you're just trying to preview the files on the page and you're not worrying about something like Cloudinary, then you can just leave this checked. And that's probably going to be what most people are going to do. but it gives you the option of doing both. All right. The advantages here are plenty. You get to make changes to files. You get to rename files. You get to save on workflow units. It simplifies your workflow, which is great. And it allows you all sorts of customization that the normal uploader doesn't do. So suggested file types, limit file types by extensions. Other plugins have you insert what's called the MIME type, which is complicated to limit the file types here. My plugin, you just give it the type of extension that you want and it limits it to that. And much more, because there's also a new plugin. Well, it's not new anymore. It's been out for a year, called Cloud Companion, and I'll link it in the description, which in combination with Better Uploader allows you to compress images before saving it to your server. So not only can you save on workflow units, but you'll be able to save on file size as well. And video compression is coming soon.